Hi, bourbon story. Oh, hi, bourbon story. This is my great grandfather. His name is Philip Edward Moock. And I have a little bit of information about Philip Edward Moock, and so I'm going to share it with everybody. And it is interesting that I have anything at all with a great grandfather. But I do. He was the dad of my grandfather, Harold Moock, and my mom's grandfather. And that's how it all works. And so his name's Philip Edward Moock. And this picture that you had seen actually is in this magazine. Excuse me, it's over 100 years old by now. And so I got to hold it carefully. This is a magazine called The Jobber Salesman. It's 1922. I'll get the rest of it up there for you just so you can see it. Obviously, it has to do with salesmen. And there's a bunch of articles inside of here. But the most thing is in this, I don't know how to show it to you, would be, there's other people, advertisements of things that need to be sold that are electric. And what those things have to be sold by a wholesaler who can then find other people to sell them on to the public. That's what wholesaling is. So this is really wholesale. And Philip was a wholesaler. In 1922, as a matter of fact, he was already a very successful, I guess that's why you get into magazines. In 1922, he was already a very successful, at 59 years old, a wholesaler. He was a wholesaler of Westinghouse appliances, electric appliances. And he'd been doing that for a few years. He started this in 1919. And by 1922, he was very successful to the point where he's in this magazine. His success, of course, came because electricity was really something brand new back then. That magazine did a really nice job of telling me in the article. You don't have to read it. I'm going to read some of it to you, but it even went on to the next page, all the things that it really just gave his whole life. It was really interesting that was able to be in the Jobber in 1922. Because now I know a little bit about, and you're going to know a little bit about Philip E Moock, President, Moock and Electric Supply Company. Before I start to read you some of this, so that you can understand a little bit of him, he must have really been active in the wholesale business itself. I'll show you a picture here momentarily of people that are part of the NAED, National Association of Electrical Distributors. Okay. That was part of the Jobber magazine that I showed you right there. And here's a picture. If you can get up close, Dan. Here's a picture of him there kind of in the middle, sitting next to the lady all in white. And he's got some kind of a name tag or something on his lapel. And he's in the front row. I'll back up a little bit. And there's a whole bunch of people. And so, that's Philip E. Moock. Pretty interesting, 1922. So I need to go backwards, of course, and find out how he got to be who he was in 1922 and continue a little bit past 1922. So, to do that, the only thing I know is things that were written about him, and I'll share them with you. He was born 5 miles north of Massillon, Ohio on November 6th, 1863. I don't know who's listening right now, but I don't think any of us really, really understand 1863. What was that like? And especially when you were born on a farm, 5 miles from, in this case, Maslin. So he's out in the boondocks somewhere. I'm sure there's not indoor plumbing. Therefore, there's no electricity, of course, either. And that's when he was born. And his education back then, like most kids, hardly any. He had to be self-taught, and he did a good job of self-teaching himself. Finally, during his younger years, he was able to get off the farm a little bit and start finding out that there's more out there in the world than farming. And at the age of 23, he was finally, I'm reading by the way, at the age of 23, he entered the employ of the Russell and Company in Maslin. They were the electrical people in Maslin. And so he started learning about electrical anyhow. He worked at that job for a while, was then transferred to a different job within there, and he was doing so well, and he had the personality to go along with it, I would assume, because, according to this, in 1896, he was sent to the World's Fair in Chicago. Back then, the World's Fair was a really big deal. The World's Fair was there, and everybody came to see what was new going on in the world. And in this case, electricity was new, and it was huge. And he went to the Chicago to the World's Fair. Well, that's pretty cool. That was in, as I said, in 1896, but he did finally come home after the World's Fair, and he was working as the chief engineer of the Canton Light, Heat, and Power Company in Canton, Ohio. He was making a mark for himself. But eventually, as he's watching what's going on in the world of electricity, eventually he had been watching, again I'm reading, he had been watching and studying and figuring and planning, and in 1919 he decided to start the Moock Electric Supply Company as a wholesaler distributor of Westinghouse products. He did that, by the way, in 1919 with his son. In 1919, his son was like only 25 years old, but the two of them together created Moock Electric Supply Company. Pretty cool. Real quick, just another article in something called The American Way. This is page 244, so they must go around probably the whole United States. I don't know. And quick little snippets of here's a person that was successful, is all I know. So in this one, and again I'm reading to you, Philip Moock purchased the Vincent Electric Company in Canton, Ohio, and et cetera, et cetera. I'll skip all of that. And by 1919, he decided to go Moock Electric Supply Company with his son, Philip Moock. He helped him organize the company, and it wasn't an electric contracting company, but into a wholesale organization. So, by 1919, by the way, he was an old man. Well, I'm an old man. He was 56 years old, and he had spent all that time in the electric industry, most of it in learning how the electric works and how do you get it out to the people, and power plants in Maslin and Canton and Pittsburgh. And now he has seen that he's got a golden opportunity with Westinghouse to be the wholesaler of Westinghouse electrical appliances. Okay, he did that. Good for him. He and his son, 1919 is when they got started doing it. And of course, by 1922, when the Jobber came out, they were already huge, already doing a wonderful job of selling Westinghouse products to businesses in the area, general stores. You can maybe imagine, I don't think Lowe's and Home Depot were around at that time. And so it was always a mom and pop type place. And he would go out and probably get his salesmen to go out and say, hey, can we put 3 washing machines and you try to sell them? They're electric, etc., and wholesale them. So that's kind of what I know of him. I got a little bit more to share. Who Philip Moock happened to be. Some of these are kind of boring, but I'm going to do them anyhow because my mom gave them to me. And I don't know why she had them, and so I don't know why I have them, so I'm going to show them to you. Find Philip. There he is. I have no idea who the other 2 people are, of course. Okay. The next one's really boring, but I'm going to show it anyhow. There's Philip. Yeah, and I don't know who the other people are. I think they're all women. Good for him. Yeah. Kind of the same idea, except we did add a couple of men this time. There's Philip. Somehow my mom had got these pictures, and somehow she kept them. And the worst part of it is she gave them to me. And I don't know what to do with them, but I'm sharing them with you right now. I have no idea what I'm going to do with them once this whole story's over. But I got another picture for you. Whoops, that's sideways. Sorry. There's Philip Moock. Okay. Actually, I do have one more picture. I have no idea if Philip is in this picture. It's an old picture. Kind of my favorite one because they like the same hat that I like to wear. And it looks like there's a group of about 7 guys that are standing around ready to go out and play rugby or something. And I just thought it was a pretty interesting picture, and somehow it got to me through my mom. Okay, Philip Edward Moock. I should be done, but I'm not. As we can see in the publication of 1922, he's doing well. By 1930, they have a nice business going. Moock Electric Supply Company, wholesalers of Westinghouse products, doing wonderful. It's 1930. Kind of time for him to settle down a little bit, take a little bit of time for a vacation or whatever. And one of the best things that I got from my mom is a passport. A passport. 1930 passport. Cool. That's a 1930 passport of, that's his signature, Philip E Moock. Huh. That's pretty interesting. Can't know how. Page 2, I'm going to come back to. Page 3 says that, I think you can probably read it. He was, I think, 5'10", gray hair. This is a passport. Yeah, there's another signature. Okay. Canal Fulton, it said, gave his date of birth. He's the manager of Moock Electric Supply Company. And the page, so that there's a picture in the passport of who he is, and that's his wife Anna. And of course, there's, like any passport, there's places that he goes and stamps that you get when you go to where places that you go. And he has a passport, and I don't know how I have it, but 1930 passport's pretty cool, especially because page 2. Okay. In page 2, it says, Philip E Moock, a citizen of the United States, the bearer of this, is accompanied by his wife Anna. He is accompanied by his wife Anna. She doesn't have a passport. She doesn't need a passport. She's a wife. She's a woman. She doesn't need a passport. This is 1930. What do they need passports for? I found that pretty interesting. I like having this. This is really an artifact of the United States of America, 1930 passports. She didn't even need her own passport. She was just being accompanied. Yeah, pretty neat. Thanks for listening to that, but I'm not done. I'm almost done. All fun stories. I think you might hopefully found it fun to learn a little bit about Philip Edward Moock, born a long time ago, died in 1930. They went to Europe. They came home from Europe in 1930, and he had a stroke. From what I've ever been able to know, and I didn't look too much into it, but he had a pretty bad stroke. It really put him down, and especially in 1930, there wasn't much you could do about having a stroke. And so being a very successful businessman and being on top of everything, and now all of a sudden he's not on top of everything, on August 8th, 1930, he died. And I have an obituary. The obituary is, hold still, he succumbs. It was written there, of course. There's a picture of him. Okay. I'm going to read the whole thing to you. So now, 1930, he passes away. Had a stroke. Obituary. Canton Repository. Philip E Moock, electrical dealer, found dead in home. Had been in ill health, formerly active in civic activities. Philip E Moock, president and treasurer and general manager of the Moock Electric Supply Company, was found dead Friday morning in his home on Culver Avenue. Mr. Moock had been ill health, following a stroke and a paralytic several years ago. That was incorrect. Happened just that summer. Recently had been subject to spells of despondency, but had continued performing his duties at the Moock Electric Supply Company. The coroner, T.C. McQuate, determined that the death had been caused by a self-inflicted gunshot. Now I am the end of the story of Philip E Moock. Interesting story from 1863 to working in the electric industry, finally starting his own business kind of late in life, the wholesale business. Did it with his son. They became very, very successful. Westinghouse. Had a stroke, and now it's the end of the story. Thanks for listening.